everyone, it's Penny. I'm continuing with my Venus series. This has been a set of videos where I spend about 30 minutes talking about a single planetary placement. So very, very detailed, lots of information. And today I am doing Venus in Aries. Now, Aries is a very masculine sign. It's ruled by Mars. So this is usually aggression, anger, but it also represents sexuality and stuff. And we're talking about Venus in Aries, and Venus is the feminine planet. It's soft, gentle expressions of love, which isn't very Aries most of the time. Aries aren't really known for being patient and gentle and affectionate, but of course they can be. Everyone has that side to them. Venus in Aries is very aggressive in expressing their affection. They're aggressive when they like someone. And even, whether they like their friend or they're interested in someone romantically, they can be kind of mean and a little bit harder on you than they would normally be, or that you would expect even, when they like you. And that's their way of expressing affection. They don't literally come up and punch you in the shoulder all the time necessarily, but it might feel like a lot of verbal punches in the shoulder, just with their impatience and their being pushy and seeming like they have no tolerance and understanding. So it's kind of an odd way to express love, and definitely not what we consider to be the norm. But everyone's different, and astrology explains that. It's always mind-boggling to realize that there's no single thing you can say about the general population that will apply to everyone, because everyone's different and there's always exceptions to every rule. Now, when it comes to courting someone who has Venus in Aries, it's good to know that they don't like nonsense. They don't want anyone who's going to waste their time. And they want someone who is consistent and sure of what they want. And if you're not sure of what you want, the least you can do is be sure of what they want and go right along with it, because that will probably work fantastically. But if you're wishy-washy and your indecisiveness is influencing your dating life, then they will be very disinterested. They don't want that person who's going around dating everyone, not sure who they're going to settle down with. It is very important to them that they have someone who responds to their attention and says, hey, this is someone I'm really interested in, and this is someone who really likes me, and I'm going to focus all my attention on that person. They don't want your attention to be split and divided. And at the first sign of that, basically, they'll probably kind of lose interest and trot along. So since this is Aries, the first sign of the zodiac that we're talking about, the beginning is very important to them. The way that the relationship starts out, that will be something that they never forget. They usually love to tell the story of how they met, unless by some chance they're ashamed of it or something. But that is the starting point. That means everything to them. And if you are rude to them in the beginning, they're pretty good about just moving along and not giving you the time of day, because to them that's a big red flag and they won't tolerate it in the beginning. They might end up having some bad habits of putting up with more things further down the line because they already feel like they have more investment in it. But when there's no investment in it yet, if you treat them poorly in any way, you say something rude or disrespectful to them, then they're going to be gone. You lost your chance. So if you want to court them, I think it's important to give them good memories and give them a romantic first date and a nice story to tell further down the line. Now, you don't usually have to do anything too crazy to impress them. Usually the simplest things like, holding a door open for them, taking them on a nice date. You don't have to jump through hoops and, be super duper show-offy. You just have to be considerate, really. So Venus in Aries is always very, very sure of what they want. They don't have a doubt in their mind. Now, what they want can change depending on circumstances, and if they decide that this person did something to make them not like them anymore. But they do know what they want. They know where they currently stand. And because of this, they can come on as being very, very strong. Because from the first date, they can already have the idea, I want to marry this person. Okay? And if they tell that to you and they say, hey, we're going to get married, that can be a little frightening. And they can come on as being a little bit too strong and end up pushing people away because of that. But if they've had that happen in the past and they noticed it's really not working out that well for them, they'll try to be more subtle. Sometimes they end up becoming so subtle and so quiet about it because they feel like people just can't handle them. They can't handle their intensity and their initial passion right from the beginning. Then they might end up becoming kind of hard to read and, you know, hiding that they like someone a little bit too well because they want to, you know, act coy and cool about it. They do like to be the initiator, though. They feel more comfortable when they're the first one to take interest, even though sometimes they might be more subtle about it. And whether or not they're going to be the one to ask you on the first date really depends on a lot of other things in their chart and whether or not they're, you know, outgoing and all that kind of thing. But even if they are being kind of subtle, regardless of whether they go right in for it and ask you on a date immediately, or if they're just kind of like giving you subtle hints and like kind of, you know, trying to stand closer to you at work, or, you know, they do something to hint that they like you, they need you to respond to it very quickly because they will take it as you're not interested if you don't. Hi, sweetie. So you should be excited when you see them taking interest, and you should let them know that you're excited because, you know, they're fire, they're flamboyant, and that's what they expect from other people too, because, you know, sometimes if someone's acting differently from the way we would act, then it's harder for us to figure them out. And they see everything as being very black and white. That's why they don't deal well with uncertainty. They don't want you to be unsure of whether or not you want to be with them. And I would think that even if on the first date you say something to them like, oh, well, I'm never going to want to marry you, you know, I'm not looking for anything long term or something like that, they're probably going to be on their way because the way they see it, you're either in or you're out. Now, when you're dating someone with Venus and Aries, passion and romance is very important to them, and they will be disappointed if you don't put that effort in. They take the things that couples are supposed to do and supposed to do together that make a relationship, they take that kind of thing very seriously, and it kind of depends on what their own personal traditions and perspectives are, so you should probably pay attention to that and figure out what's important to them. There's a set of rules, checklists, and requirements that exist within their mind. And where's your cup? Go get it. And they probably won't be that good at verbalizing all of these things because they kind of assume that everyone already knows that stuff and everyone's like them and everyone values the same things they value. They just think that's what everyone wants. And really it's not, but that's why they think that they don't need to take the time to explain it. So they don't realize that not everyone values the same things in a relationship that they do. They may not realize that not everyone wants a relationship that's like the one in The Notebook or like the one in Twilight or whatever their favorite movie is. So my advice is to ask them what their favorite movie is. And if they give you an action movie or something, watch it, see if there's any like romance in it, you know, what the coupling is like, but dig deeper as well. Find a romantic movie or a romantic novel that they like and watch it and pay attention and take the things that happen in that movie or in that book as hints for the kinds of things that you should be doing for them if you want to maintain the relationship. They do tend to like the classics and have more traditional ideas of romance, you know, maybe not like an arranged marriage or something that traditional, but they're suckers for things like kissing in the rain, champagne at a wedding.
Mommy. Look, it's for you. It's for you. It's mommy.
Okay.
It's mommy. It's for you.
Champagne at a wedding, candlelit dinners, down on one knee marriage proposals and, all that kind of stuff. Now, when it comes to love and long-term commitments and all that nice stuff, they believe in one true soulmate. And when they get married, they will usually stay with that person for the rest of their life. Even if things aren't going that well, I think a lot of times it becomes difficult for them to admit that it's not going that well, because that would be admitting failure. They are strictly monogamous. Monogamy is very important to them. I've seen a lot of them put up with all kinds of crap, but gee, this is too loud. I've seen a lot of them put up with all kinds of crap, but I think cheating may be the one thing that they absolutely will not tolerate. And across the board, I think any Venus and Aries person, if you cheat on them and they find out about it, that's when you're done. And my impression is that it's not even because it hurts them that much. I feel like they have enough security to not be as emotionally hurt by it. They have the confidence and self-love for themselves. But, because of that and their self-esteem, they just very strongly feel that they don't deserve to be cheated on, and they just think anyone who would dare to do that is disgusting and awful, and they broke a very clear rule. They crossed a line that they are not supposed to cross, and they fundamentally think that cheating is wrong. And, they can kind of look at people who agree to be in open relationships and even be married to multiple people, and they can respect that it was an agreement.
Mommy,
and that was everyone involved. Everyone involved made that consensual decision, but at the same time, they're kind of like, I don't really get it. Why? Why do you do that? I don't know. Now, they need for expressions of love to be obvious, and they may feel like they make it obvious and they make it clear when they love someone and that they're doing all the things that they're supposed to be doing in the relationship, but they can be a little bit insecure about how they think other people feel about them, and they need you to make it clear and obvious that you still have feelings for them. Like all the normal things you would expect couples to do to confirm that they're still interested in one another, like kissing, going on dates regularly, or even buying them gifts. They will take generous gestures as an expression of love. So, if it's something like doing the chores for the day for them so that they can sit and relax and do what they wanted to, or, like rubbing their feet, they can, kind of across the board understand all the other signs, expressions of love as well, as long as it's obvious and they know that it actually happened. So if you try to be sneaky about it or something, then they might, not realize it and end up throwing a fit like, why didn't you do anything for me? But it is also very important that you acknowledge what they do for you as an expression of love. Like if they make you dinner every day, if they work really hard at their job and bring home a lot of money so that you guys can have nice, comfortable lives, they need you to acknowledge that that's something that they did for you and for the relationship and for the well-being of everyone. If you have kids or anything like that, they would feel very, very taken for granted if they came home from work or something like that and they were doing overtime and you're just mad about the fact that they weren't there, because to them, they're probably doing it to try and make you happy and to, show you how important you are and that they're willing to do a lot and make sacrifices for you. And if you take that as some kind of insult, then they will feel very taken for granted. And, if that happens, they'll start to question the relationship. It's like, well, I'm doing all these things that I felt like I was supposed to be doing as a husband or wife or whatever, and they're just acting like I'm doing something wrong. They're acting like this wasn't what I was supposed to be doing, and then they get kind of confused. And when they're confused, they're like, well, this is confusing. It doesn't make sense, so I shouldn't be here, because they see everything as being straightforward like that. But they tend to move so fast in their heart and in their head, how they're feeling emotionally about their encounters with other people, that a lot of times they will completely miss the point and they will zip right past you, and they will assume that things happened a certain way because of how the other person was feeling, and they're like, oh, this person just wasn't interested in me. They won't take a minute to consider, well, maybe this person was interested and that there was a misunderstanding or there was a miscommunication. No, they don't really see that. They'll just miss it, and they will be quick to leave just as they are quick to start off. Just remember that they don't waste no time. At least not on purpose. If they end up thinking they're not wasting time, but then they later find out they are, then they will be annoyed and they will have lots of regrets about it. But yeah, if they ended up thinking someone was worth their time and later find out it wasn't, then what can you do? But my advice to Venus and Aries would just be to be mindful of the decisions you are making and how they and the relationships you partake in will actually affect your life. Because I think you guys, I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong, because I don't really know if God has like one person intended for us and we're supposed to really stay with that person for our whole life. I can't say that for you, and you know, whatever you believe, you should follow. But maybe not. I hate to say this, but I wouldn't focus everything on fate so much and think that, you know, oh, I'm fated to be with this person, so, you know, almost telling yourself like, I have to be with this person because, you know, this person did everything right and they asked me to marry me, and like, this makes sense. I took all these steps. I went from point A to point Z, and we went through the whole process, and because of that we have to stay together. Because I think thinking like that a lot of times can cause a lot of unhappiness, and I see a lot of Venus and Aries people seeming to be very unfulfilled in their relationship, and it's almost like, well, I can say I did it, I can say I did everything right, but you know, somehow I still ended up wondering if I actually did it right. So I would say focus a little more on what will actually make you happy rather than what you feel like you and your partner are just supposed to do. Now it's time for compatibility with all 12 of the astrological signs and their Venus placements. Remember, we're talking about Venus placements here, and Venus stays relatively close to the sun, so it might be the same as your sun sign, but then again, it might not. So Venus and Aries coupled with another Venus and Aries person. These two obviously have the capacity to completely miss each other and just zoom right by, and if their heads are not in the same place, they're not on the same page, then it simply isn't going to work out. And if there's some kind of disagreement from the get-go, and they don't have the same like values and perspectives about how things should be, then they're not really going to be able to make it work. But if they think alike and they communicate with each other well, and they take the time to not miss one another's point and what the other person wants, then it could work out well. But the only problem is, I feel like it does take a lot of time and effort to figure out what it is that a Venus and Aries person wants, but they don't normally put that same time and effort into figuring out what their partner wants, because they tend to just assume their partner is going to want the same thing that they wanted, which a lot of times isn't true. And I feel like every single Venus and Aries person right now is going to be commenting, telling me, you're so wrong, you have no idea how much I do for my partner. Yes, I know you do a lot for your partner, but I don't think you take the time to research your partner and find out what they actually want to be done. But you can very well decide to do that right now. I mean, there's no reason you can't. We all get to decide who we want to be, and astrology doesn't force us to be anyone we don't want to be. So go ahead and use your free will. Venus in Taurus will enjoy the same kinds of dates you will for the most part. You know, they like the romantic gestures and all that nice stuff. But they're likely to be a little bit overwhelmed by you and think that you're too demanding and feel like you're putting a lot of pressure on them, especially in the beginning. Like, they can't move that fast. They're a cow. They're a fucking cow. You see, cows are slow. Cows like to chill, you know. Just take them out to dinner and treat them right, and eventually they'll be ready to move forward, but that's the way they are. Venus and Gemini with Venus and Aries can be a lot like a bumpy roller coaster ride. They'll have periods of time where they get along very, very well, and then lots of quick, short-lived fights periodically. Venus in Gemini is very inquisitive. They like to ask a lot of questions, and Venus in Aries doesn't really like to be questioned. Venus in Cancer and Venus in Aries are both very sensitive, but in different ways. So you're likely to kind of step on each other's toes and do a lot of hurting each other's feelings, and I do think you guys have a lot of the same fundamental wants and beliefs about relationships. If you go ahead and watch my Venus and Cancer video, I think you'll see what I mean. But I don't think you'll realize how alike you really are, and then because of that you'll end up kind of stomping all over each other, and there'll be some fights. Yeah. Venus in Leo and Venus in Aries both have a lot of the same values when it comes to relationships. They want something show-offy and spectacular that they can brag about. So this is a good pairing, but if it comes to a point where both of you, or even just one of you, comes to start feeling like you're not getting enough appreciation, attention, affection, and recognition, and you start to get a little bit butthurt about it, then you're going to have a lot of problems. And from there, things can get a lot worse. They can start going downhill super, super fast when you have sand thrown on your fire and the waterworks start coming down and you guys are both discouraged and you both are feeling like you're not loved enough. You'll both kind of just mope about it because that's the natural reaction for both of you. So I think you might have to just kind of get over it and go ahead and be willing to be the first one to say, hey, I still care about you, hey, I still love you, and continue to do nice things even though you feel like you were taken for granted, because you need to realize they probably feel like they were taken for granted as well. And then you'll realize how much you both still love each other, and you'll be like, I love you so much, I can't believe we were fighting, I missed you too, like we spent all this time being upset about nothing. Venus in Virgo is so different from you, so you're gonna have to kind of stay aware of this. They don't have the confidence you do when it comes to romance. They can feel awkward about it. We tend to overcomplicate things, and I think it's easy to scare us and make us feel uncomfortable if you're being romantic, because it's almost like we feel like something bad is about to happen. And because of that, because of how awkward Venus in Virgo tends to feel, they're gonna try to be more sneaky about the nice romantic things that they do for you. And they might try to even intentionally make it something that you won't realize that they did. And because of that, you're probably not gonna notice what they did. And then you might end up feeling like they really don't do anything for you, even though they probably do. Venus in Libra will try to cater to you and will try to do things to make you happy, as long as they know what you actually want. If they don't know what you want, then they might just kind of stay lost, floating in forever nothing. But also you have to make them feel like it's worth their time and like you're reciprocating what they do, because Libra is a kind of initially generous sign, but they do expect things in return. And if they end up not getting those things in return, they might kind of be like, bye, Venus in Scorpio and you will both have very high expectations of one another. And as long as you understand what the expectations are and why the other person wants or needs the things that they want and need, then this can be a good pairing. You guys are both ruled by Mars, so you're able to handle each other's intensity and not be scared away by it. And I think in that respect, the same things that make this relationship difficult are also what are going to allow you to feel like really loved because of that passion. Now, Venus in Sagittarius is very compatible with you. You're both fire. But the thing is, you may end up feeling like even though you and this person, have the same values and the same kind of hearts, that you're always waiting for your ships to come in with them. you're always waiting for them to take you on that nice, perfect, romantic date that you two have talked about and that you two have said you both dreamt about, or, you know, waiting for them to clear their schedule so that you can take them on the date. And the why might be kind of unclear, but I would say it's probably because they're just not as certain as you are. They have a little bit more anxiety involved. Venus in Capricorn and Venus in Aries are both traditional, both prioritizing of commitment and very serious about relationships, and they don't really want to have their time wasted. But because you go about things in different ways, there might kind of be some arguments of, you're wasting my time, no, you're wasting my time, and you just don't realize, again, that you both kind of want the same things further down the line, and it might be hard to put some of your differences aside. And it is very likely that you can annoy the heck out of each other. But I'm actually kind of curious about this one. So if anyone has been in a relationship with someone who has Venus in Capricorn, or you're Venus in Capricorn and you've been with someone who has Venus in Aries, go ahead and leave it in the comments below, because I want to hear about what is going on or what has happened. Venus in Aquarius is likely to have a lot of disagreements with you, and they're also very hard-headed about the way they think relationships and everything should be. So it might be difficult for you guys to move past it, and if you just can't agree, then the relationship probably flat out isn't going to work out, and I don't think there's a lot of mistaking that. So this is going to be very black and white. Either it works out beautifully or it doesn't work out at all, and I think you're going to know right away. Venus and Pisces with Venus and Aries, I think is unlikely, because I think they would annoy the heck out of you, and that they would make you feel unwanted and you'd make them feel unaccepted, and there just wouldn't be a whole lot of common ground in like the way you feel a relationship should be. But there is that opportunity to challenge each other and change the way that you see things, and I think they could open up your mind a little bit more, and there's some things that you could teach them as well. So, you know, you shouldn't just go running just because you see someone who has Venus and Pisces, but know that there's going to be a lot of obstacles and things you're going to have to like make the effort to understand about them and communicate a little bit better. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed my video, and if you did, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you hate me, then man, might as well give me a thumbs down and make me cry and leave a mean comment, and then I'll say something mean to you back because I have a backbone. And that's the way I am. Yeah, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. Go ahead and talk to me about your experiences. If you want me to look at your own personal chart and you want a reading or something, I would love to do that for you. There's so much more I can talk about than just the Venus sign, and there's aspects to Venus and transits to Venus and all kinds of awesome things going on in astrological charts. So let me know. I look forward to seeing you again. Make sure you're subscribed so that I can see you again, and I have Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff as well, so you can check the description. Toodaloo!